Hello and welcome to the 3-time award-winning Tough Girl podcast, which is all about motivating and inspiring you while increasing the amount of female role models in the media. I'm your host, Sarah Williams. If you love adventure, challenge and hearing from women who share their stories and provide top tips and advice to help you take on your own personal challenges, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. New episodes go live every Tuesday at 7 a.m. UK time, with bonus episodes happening on a Thursday. You can support the Tough Girl mission by signing up as a patron by visiting Patreon, patreon.com/Tough Girl Podcast. Keep listening until the very end as I share more information about what's going on with me, with Tough Girl challenges, give shout outs and recommend other Tough Girl podcast episodes. More information can be found at toughgirlchallenges.com.
I am Lis van Lynden, which is spelled L-I-S. I'm half Dutch, half British. I grew up abroad. So I was born in Paris and we lived in France, Holland and Belgium. And then I came over to London, started training up as a teacher. But when I was 19, I lost a brother, actually, who was age 17 in a sailing accident. He died. That was by my aunt and uncle's estate up on the west coast of Scotland by Loch Fyne. So that was pretty harrowing. It was on the 29th of October, so it was quite late in the season. Sadly, not even a year later, on the 15th of October, my father died from bowel cancer. So these two things really shaped all our lives. So there was another brother and my mother and I, the three of us, really changed our lives completely. I trained up as a teacher, but not as the normal teacher. I trained up as a Montessori teacher and NLEB nursery school teacher, and worked out that actually I didn't really enjoy the nursery stuff. So I went into a school and worked in West Dulwich for about 12 years, and I did that as a untrained teacher for most of that time. And then I thought there must be more to life. You know, I was always interested in the adventure travel side of things. And actually, when I was 21, I did Kilimanjaro. And then a year later, I did a mountaineering course. We were meant to do the Mont Blanc, actually. And it was shrouded in mist. So we did the Gran Paradiso, but not without a story, where I tried to get up to the top the first time, and I was slowing the group down so much I had to come back down and do it the next day, basically, on my own with a guide. I think that was possibly one of the first signs that I actually had MS, which I'll come to later. I did teaching, day in, day out, teaching, for 12 years, and I suddenly thought, there's got to be something more to this. And in 2008, I finished. I hacked in my job, doing a history degree with the Open University at the same time. I then suddenly thought, gosh, I feel actually quite ill in that summer, and I'll never forget it. I had smoked for a few years before that, and I was quite worried because my mother had died in 2005, aged 58. With lung cancer, and she had been a smoker. So I thought, gosh, am I going down the same trajectory as my dad, or as my mother? I was very worried, but then I met someone and we moved in together. We bought a house in Fulham. We were there for 4 years, and then we got married, actually. And then a year later, I got diagnosed. So this is now 2013. I got diagnosed with MS. I fought against it for a good 5 years because, it was just me in that marriage, really. In the end, there was no support there whatsoever. It was, it's quite a tricky situation, perhaps for somebody on the other side of the MS game. Certainly, it is tricky, I think, with somebody who doesn't want to know about it. I fought against it for 5-6 years, completely denied it, pretended that nothing was there, and it all got worse, and it reared its head hugely. I consequently got divorced, and then we sold our house. I just went on a spending spree, but not in shops. I thought, right, this was it. I've always wanted to go to Svalbard, Spitsbergen. I'm going to go there for 3 whole weeks, and I'm going to do the most amazing, incredible holiday. And I'm going to rewrite this whole adventure travel thing in my head, in my body, and we're going to get MS, in the background. That whole trip in Svalbard completely changed everything for me. It suddenly dawned on me, God, what have I been doing? Why haven't I been saving up like mad to do this sort of experience? And it completely changed everything. So I came back. That was 2018. So in 2019, I think it's 2019, I read a book called One Man and His Bike by Mike Carter. And it was all about a middle-aged man literally also going through a divorce, packing up his bike and literally leaving town in London, following the Thames, getting to the sea, and then following that all around. So he rode all along the coast of Great Britain. When I read the book, I've never laughed so much in my life. It was punchy, it was funny, it was, every time I think of it or look at it, I look at it with great fondness in that sense. But I do always give a bit of a chuckle because of the stories that he's put there. He's also a travel journalist, so he writes incredibly well. And in fact, there are some words in there that I had to look up in the dictionary, which for me, that's a great book. So he writes terribly well. And so I read it. And when I got to the end, I suddenly thought, my goodness, can I do this? Could I do this? Could this be my adventure challenge? And I thought, yeah, no, let's read it again. And so I read it again. And by the second time, I said, yeah, absolutely. And I had 100% conviction. So that happened then. And then I was looking at everything to do with adventure travel from then on. And I hadn't told anybody about my idea at all. I then found that Vedangi Kulkarni, who I didn't know at the time, was doing a competition saying, oh, you can win Komoot, year supply of Komoot. You can win all sorts of little goodies, but you can also win my blueprint for doing an adventure travel. And you can have discussions with me via Zoom, and we can plan what your next adventure will be. So I went, oh my God, this is great. This is great. Oh, I need to enter this. So I entered. Weirdly, I won it. And I was thinking, gosh, the book, the competition, and then I went off to, I didn't go off to Kendal, but Kendal's online at this point. And I watched a particular film, and it was called Kitonga. And I loved it so much because it resonated hugely, because it basically said, I have a dream, and it's so nagging. And I thought, yeah, know exactly what you mean, in the sense that that's precisely what was happening in my brain. This thing about cycling around the coast was just consuming me left, right, and centre. And then I thought, okay, hang on, now there's 3 signs. And I talked to the producer who did the film. He loved it, that I loved it, basically. So I then thought, gosh, what do I do next? And I told my brother, because I suddenly thought, he's the one that's really going to push me to do it. And we had Christmas, and then came 2020. I was about to, sort of announce it. And then, of course, then the first lockdown happened. So I couldn't do it in 2020. And then 21 still wasn't good enough. So then it went on to 22. So on the 7th of May, there I was, having packed up my flat. I had done it on a 3-year contract, much to my amusement to my family. And I'd done it on a 3-year contract because I thought I didn't know what I was going to do afterwards. And the thought of coming back into education was just ridiculous. I just couldn't. And I thought this was a good 3 years way of doing it. I've been one of these people that have never really known what I really wanted, as a sort of job as such. I was always told that you had to do the 9-to-5 job, get settled down, get a house, get a dog, get a car. And settle down, children and stuff like that. And it just never gelled with me, that. Anyway, the 7th of May comes, 2022. We're all there, all family there. We're on the Devonshire Road in Chiswick. We're by, the Urban Pantry, which was a great place, great cafe, restaurant. And it's a nice sunny day. Everyone's out on the terrace eating their brunches and things like that. Suddenly, I'm literally on my bicycle, but I'm actually on the ground, half on the pavement, half on the road, because I've completely fallen down. I've not checked the luggage, that I've taken in my, stuff. I don't even know what I've got in my bags at this point. I am so utterly naive at this point into what I'm doing. I'm so nervous, can't talk to anybody properly either. And everyone just stopped and looked at me and went, "Oh my God, how are you gonna do it?" Anyway, I got up, dusted myself off, as it were, and got back on, and off I went, basically. The first day I did 68 miles. Bear in mind, I did absolutely no training whatsoever. I've hardly ridden on my bike. I knew how to ride pretty well, but I did no cycling in London. It's not really, wasn't very pleasant in those days at all. You had taxis and buses right up against you. And so this first day was just, so I went from Chiswick to the City of London. By the time I got to the City of London, I was going completely rabbity because I bought a Garmin 1040 at that point, which was brand new. I had probably tested it out for about 20 minutes in Richmond Park. And I went, yeah, that'll do. That's easy. And then I got to the city. That was 68 miles, which, was, so that was my first day. And I suddenly thought, jeepers, I know I said I need to do 50 miles at the least every day, but this is not going to work. I am absolutely shattered beyond belief. So I ripped up the rules and I decided that I had 3 whole years, if I needed to get round the entire coast of Great Britain. It didn't take me that long. It took me 7 months, 3 days, and 1 hour. And 1 month into the journey, I was absolutely loving it. I was completely euphoric. Things had completely changed. My mindset had changed. Just everything had changed. But there was one thing that I did, which was perhaps a bit naughty. I was on Tecfidera, which is a pill that you take in the morning and the pill that you take in the evening. Very simple, very easy, but I kept forgetting to take my pills, which is quite dangerous when you forget about it for at least 5 days and then you have to start it up again. You shouldn't really be doing it like that. And so I decided, though, that medicine's great, but maybe I could do this without. So I put all the pills in the bin. And I did contact, obviously, the MS department and said, look, this is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do. And I said, does that mean that I need to do blood tests every 3 months? No. And I said, brilliant. Okay, fantastic. And so I took myself off the medication. And I have to say, after that, I felt immensely, immensely free. Eventually, as I got up to the East Coast into Scotland, I started doing, obviously, wild camping. And then I'd never done that really before. I'd always been in a camp still. And I basically fell in love with it. I absolutely adored it. And I then did wild camping most times, even in Wales and England and things like that. And then I suddenly thought, right, I've done Great Britain, but how can I say that I've done the UK? Because a lot of people get these two muddled up. And so I thought, I'm going to do Northern Ireland. And so I went to live at my aunt's. So then I did Northern Ireland. That was absolutely great fun. I mean, the Irish are nuts. And so I did Belfast to Belfast. the coast and the border. Again, lots and lots of people helping. It was amazing. The kindness of strangers, and that's on GB case as well. The kindness of strangers is really quite awesome. And you can read all about it everywhere. But yeah, until you actually get it on your journey, you don't appreciate it really. You don't understand it, I don't think, quite how profound it is. And then 2 days later, I did the entire coast of the Republic of Ireland, which was amazing. So now I've done the mainland UK and a little bit of extra. One of the other meetings I've also had, which was also quite profound, is when I was cycling anti-clockwise from London to London round on the GB coast. I came into Applecross, which is up in Scotland, on the west coast there, and I was about to attempt to do that, I can never remember how to say it now, but it's the highest road by Applecross. And it's funny because I used to always know. And it was raining, spectacularly. I've never seen rain like it. And it had done this for quite a few days. And it was really quite bad. And I went to the reception and I just carried on and on. And I said, look, I'm doing this for charity. I cannot be in this rain. I said, I don't know where to go. And anyway, they relented. I got the pod. But what was extraordinary was that the next morning I parked my bike up by the wooden sort of steps. And I noticed a bike on the side. And I thought, interesting. Better be there by the time I come back. But I need to go into reception quickly. And just thank them enormously for what they did. And I came back out and I saw this bike again, and then I saw the owner, and I said, "Oh, you're a tourer, you're a cycling tourist." And she said, "Yep, absolutely." And she said, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, and I pointed to my bags and I said, look, it says, I'm cycling around the coast of Great Britain." And she said, "Well, you won't believe this, but so am I." And I went, "No, oh, how amazing. And you're a woman." And so, we jumped up and, great joy, hugged each other and said, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And she was going clockwise. I was going anti-clockwise. And so that's probably one of the biggest, sort of meetings I had with the GB bit. Obviously, there were many more, but that one, is a big one. And that was quite amazing, just because there were two women that did that. Normally, it's you usually only hear of men doing it, and there was another woman actually that did it this year. The last year, 2024, which was great. So. The more women that we have cycling and doing these sorts of, things, the greater the world will be, I think.
Totally agree with what you're saying. Like, the more women doing these types of challenges and adventures, the better. I'd love to know, how does MS affect you? Like, what impact does that have on you now? And you stop taking your medication. What symptoms are you dealing with at the moment, or are they sort of under control now?
They're completely under control. I have basically pins and needles in my right hand. I don't think I'm going to, I don't know, I might be able to get rid of it. It would be great to get rid of it completely. But it's totally fine. It just means that I can't hold too many things in that hand, because I will either forget that I'm holding it, or it will slip out of my hand and drop onto the floor. Apart from that, I get headaches quite a lot. I think the headaches are always there anyway in my brain. I mean, this morning I've woken up with a bit of a headache, but I haven't had it for, 2 weeks now. The one thing that I find I struggle really badly with is sleep. I'm constantly, my mind is like a washing machine. I've got all these ideas and things like that. And, I'm thinking of this and I'm thinking of that. And I can't switch it off. I think that's probably one of the biggest things in MS is sleep, lack of sleep, or difficulty of getting to sleep. Paralysis, obviously, that's quite a big thing. Most people do actually have it in the legs, so they have difficulty with walking. I have that a little bit, but not really. I think it's more of a knee problem rather than an MS problem for me.
So, Liz, you set out, to do this incredible challenge, while sort of battling MS, raising funds, raising awareness, finishing the challenge. Did you have an idea what was going to be next for you? Because, reflecting back, it sounds as though you were looking for something different.
Yeah, I think someone described it to me perfectly, I think, is that it was almost as if I had done my 9 to 5 sort of lifestyle. I wanted something completely different. I needed to get out of it. And I wanted to live life to the full. And I wasn't doing that before. And it was almost as if I'd put myself on the top of the stairs and pushed myself down a very long flight of stairs and got down to the heap at the bottom. I don't know how my life will turn out. And I didn't know then. I still don't. I've got quite a few projects to work on this year. This year will be slightly different because there's still a bit of a challenge to do. So last year I was doing the 15 national parks and then walking up the highest peak in each one just to improve the walking. And I reached the 12th national park before the weather really turned quite bad. And I had to stop, and that was sort of mid-December last year. I have many projects that I'm working on. Writing a book is one of them. Trying to find a different way of getting income, which is what I'm working on, particularly right now. Trying to get as many people, particularly women, out on their bikes and doing stuff, and encouraging people as much as possible to keep moving within the MS communities to really try and change that mindset and to get out. But I do believe that movement, eating well, and sleep are three basic things that we could all do, but particularly need to do for people with MS. And take alcohol down quite a few notches and only have it here and there, literally, a glass here and there, which sounds as if I'm giving out a lecture. I'm not at all. You can, anybody and everybody can do whatever they want, but it has helped so many people already, and they've tried it, and it's changed their MS, actually. It's subdued it, shall we say.
You said that your mindset changed while you were on this challenge.
Absolutely.
What did it change from to?
Well, it was quite good before. I'm a fairly positive person in the first place. However, I had lost quite a few people in my family. Didn't really talk about it too much then because it was just too heart-rending for my mother to do that, which I completely understood. But I built a strong mindset before I went on this cycle trip. So quite a few years before, I am interested in the mindset scenario. I was, looking at everything, particularly when it was lockdowns. I really looked at that during the lockdowns. I followed several people, fascinated about it still very much now, even more fascinated, to be honest with you. I've become fascinated with the brain as well, and that's got stronger and stronger to the point of ridiculousness. Because I think that if we can help ourselves, then that's half the battle. With mindset, I think before a challenge, you kind of need to have that in you to be able to get through the really shitty days. And there's some shitty days. It's not all going to be hunky-dory, sort of red roses. And there are going to be shitty days. So you have to have a good mindset. And you can't view everything, or you can't view anything in a negative way at all. And so how can you flip it if you do? That's possibly one of the best things that I can say.
Yeah. So are you very good at reframing?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I do it within seconds. I just go, oh my God, why am I thinking like that? Yeah.
One of the things that I've noticed, and I just do it automatically now because it's something that I do constantly and have done for probably over 20 years, is reframe everything, probably to the point of annoyance for other people. But even when I hear something negative, I can't help but just sort of think, oh, can we look at this situation in a different way? Can we reframe this? Can we flip it? Because I always find it difficult when people are being, especially when they're being negative to themselves. I'm literally like, oh no, words are powerful when you say like, I'm tired, or I am weak, or I'm scared, or I'm literally like, oh no, don't say that. It's like words are powerful. You've got to
they are.
Say like, like I am strong. I can do this. I will do this. I'm going to do this. I get to do this. With your most recent challenge, heading around visiting 15 national parks, have you finished that, or have you still got to a few national parks to finish?
I've got 3 more parks to do. So I stopped with not the Brecon Beacon, I keep calling it the Brecon Beacons, the Peak District. Got to the top of the Peak District, and I was going to make my way to the Yorkshire Dales, and my brother was laughing at me. And because he was saying, oh my God, you're never going to make it. And I said, yes, I will. And of course I didn't. So we've got the Yorkshire Dales, the Yorkshire Moors, and the Lake District.
Lis, where are you most active on social media? How can people find out more about your adventures with MS and support the work that you're doing?
Yeah, well, actually, that's about to sort of change, because actually I've got a Instagram page, obviously. You can always follow me there with Lis van Lynden, but Lis being Lis, and then Van Lynden. I'm also on Facebook as well. But I think I'm actually about to do a page called Active with MS on Instagram. And I think that's going to sort of be even more about MS. And because I want to try and inspire people, and it will be a little bit about my challenge as well, but not so much. It will be more about, here is an educational thing that you can get, especially for when you have first been diagnosed. You can then know exactly where you can get all the information, because I think it's pretty bewildering for a newbie.
Fantastic. So I'll make sure that I include all the links to your current social media and the next handle that you're going to have for social media to share that knowledge and resources with other people who are looking for support and who are going through something similar. But Lis, I'd love for you to have the final words of advice and wisdom for other women who are wanting to take on a new challenge, who are wanting to step outside their comfort zone, just to do something different, no matter the personal challenges that they're facing. Apart from just do it, what advice and tips would you like to share? And you can take that in any direction.
I think the thing is that you have to build up a mindset. Absolutely have to build a mindset, and a strong one. And you can look up all sorts of people that you can follow online to get all sorts of ideas on that. And then to take gentle steps in if it's hiking, if it's cycling, or anything to get you outside to do anything, is step by step. Little increments matter hugely. Once you put these little steps back together, then you can do that. And the other thing is record everything. Write it all down so that you can see your progress. I think, find things like cold water therapy, for me, helped me in my MS. Something, might help you in that way. And you have to find out for yourself once and for all. That's really what my final message is.
Fantastic. Lis, thank you so much for coming on the Tough Girl podcast to share more about your adventure and challenges, and just best of luck with the work that you're doing to increase awareness for people with MS. And thank you for sharing your journey and adventures.
Not at all. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Hey, tribe. How are you all doing? I hope you're keeping super well. So normally, beginning of May, I am so organised. I am so efficient. I am on top of everything. That is not the case this May. So just being honest, I ended up breaking my laptop, needed to get that replaced. So I was without a laptop for a couple of weeks. So all my emails are everywhere. I lost like loads of editing I'd done. Basically, I thought I'd taken 10 steps forward. I ended up going 20 steps back. So I'm playing massively in catch-up mode. If you've reached out to me on social media or via email and I haven't come back to you yet, I am so sorry. Please do send me a catch-up, just check in with me. Like, have you received this message? I'd really appreciate it. But it's not me ignoring you. It's literally overwhelmed, and I'm not normally overwhelmed. But just keep it real, beginning of May, but it won't take me long, but I will get back on top of things. But how are you doing? I hope everything's going super, super well. Just want to do a little shout out. I received a lovely message from Hannah, just saying, hi Sarah, just wanted to say that I really enjoyed the latest episode with Liz and also your recent episode with Carrie Andrews. I actually listened to both on a run, and I'm also 4 months postpartum with baby number 3, training for a 50k in April. Love the bit about not feeling guilty for going out to run. Thanks for all you do. Love the podcast. Big kiss. Hannah, thank you so much for your message. Honestly, it really got me through those tough times. A big shout out to anybody who is out there at the moment, who is training for a race, who's putting in the hours, especially when the weather is not great, when you don't feel like it, when you maybe do feel a little bit guilty and you think there's 1,001 other things that you should be doing. It is okay to prioritize yourself. It is okay to put yourself first. It's better for you, your mental health, your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, to get outside and do something for you. So yeah, forget those feelings of guilt. And massive congratulations to everyone who was out running, whether that was the Manchester Marathon or the London Marathon. My cousin actually ran it, Lucy. Congratulations to Lucy. She actually did a sub 3 hours, 2 hours, 58 minutes, which is absolutely amazing. Very proud of her. But to be honest, very proud of everybody who has entered the ballot, who shows up, who makes a commitment and gets training to do any race like this. What have I been up to? Not a huge amount. I have been back training pretty hard, been climbing a few mountains. I'm still training for the GR10, but I'm doing flat training just because it's so easy where I am. So it's because I'm coastal, but I do need to start climbing some mountains because the GR10 has an elevation gain and loss of around 53,000 feet over 955 kilometers, which is around 630 miles. So I really need to do some more training. So that is what I'm trying to do at the moment, is get myself motivated to get out and do more training. That is my plan. I'd love to hear what you're up to. It's always fantastic to hear from listeners of the Tough Girl podcast and just, what you're working towards, what your goals are, especially if there's also anything that you're struggling with and you think, actually, Sarah, do you know what? It'd be really great if on the podcast you could cover off more topics around whether it is mindset, motivation, guilt, etc. If there's anything that you think that I'm missing or that you would be particularly interested in, please do reach out. I'm going to be doing another set of interviews in June, and then the next set of interviews is going to be in September, end of September, beginning of October. So if you've got any guests that you'd like me to speak with, then please do send me an email, sarah@toughgirlchallenges.com, and just let me know their names, and even if it's previous guests as well, you want me to do a catch-up episode. I've had a couple of requests. People want me to catch up with Vedangi, mentioned on this episode. Actually, Vedangi has just done her second around the world trip, so it'd be amazing to catch up with her. Also Brutal Claire, haven't spoken to her for a while, it'd be amazing to catch up with her. And there's a few other women on the podcast as well who would be great to catch up with. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for all of your support. If you'd like to support the mission to increase the amount of female role models in the media, especially in relation to adventure and physical challenges, then please do visit Patreon, patreon.com/toughgirlpodcast. And everything that we have talked about today will be available in the show notes at toughgirlchallenges.com. Thank you so much for listening. All that's left for me to say is, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, give it your all, give it 110%, get after it, go for it, believe in yourself, because I believe in you. Take care, lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.